evening to everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time to participate in Congressman John Garamendi's town hall. Due to our incredible engagement tonight, I ask that everybody please keep your questions under 1 minute. That way we can answer as many as possible. If you want to ask Congressman Garamendi a question, please type it into the Q&A box. Once again, to ask a question, type your question into the Q&A box, not the chat. We will not be looking at the chat. Also, please ensure that your name is listed on your Zoom account so we can call on you. If we can answer your question, I will introduce your name and then you will receive a prompt to unmute your mic. Please follow that prompt because we are not able to unmute for you. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if we did not address your question, please go to garamendi.house.gov/contact and submit it there for a response. This and many other links will be provided to everybody on the chat. You can also call any of our offices to record your comments with a member of our staff. Phone numbers can be found at garamendi.house.gov. To keep up to date with information from our office, please follow the Congressman on all his social media platforms. He is on Twitter, he is on Facebook, he is on Instagram, he is on YouTube, he is on Threads, and he is on Bluesky. Be sure to also follow Congressman Garamendi's weekly email newsletter. We work really, really hard on this. In addition, this town hall will be posted in full to the Congressman's YouTube account tomorrow. So if you or if a loved one missed out, it will be posted there tomorrow. Also in the chat, you will find links to services that the Congressman provides to his constituents, such as assistance in receiving benefits from federal agencies. Please know that our office is here to help. And once again, everybody, if you're coming in right now, if you would like to ask the Congressman a question, please type your question into the Q&A box. Please, and once I call your name, you will receive a prompt to unmute. Please follow the prompt because we are not able to unmute you. And again, this entire town hall will be posted in full tomorrow in the Congressman's YouTube channel. And thank you again so much, everybody, for your time. We really appreciate your time, and we would love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Congressman John Garamendi for some short opening remarks.
Cameron, thank you so very much. Cameron Nevin is my communications director, and he was setting us all up. And he also gave me very, very specific instructions to be short. And I will, because I really want to get to your questions. We live in very, very challenging times with the war in Iran, with all of the questions about the upcoming elections, the Supreme Court decisions, the way in which our allies and Trump are seeming to be at odds. All of these issues are profoundly important to our nation and to our future. The issues have to be addressed. With your insight and with your questions, I will gain some better understanding of how my constituents in my district are feeling about what's going on at the federal level. For me, I am very, very concerned. I have been around on the federal and state programs for a long time and never have I ever seen anything quite like this. We can talk about Trump and his ever-changing views on the war in Iran, and we probably will. We need to talk about about how all of us are going to deal with the ever-increasing cost of living. I filled up my tank on my F-250 earlier today, and it ran over $150. And I'm going, oh my. No, I can afford that, but I know people out there cannot. So we've got a lot of challenges. I suspect your questions will probably deal with many of these issues, and I'll go directly to them. And if along the way there's some question that's not asked that I think we really ought to discuss, I'll bring it up myself. And Cameron, if you're ready, let's, I think I've been short enough. Let's go to the questions that are out there, if there are any, and we will just roll on here.
Short and sweet, sir. I really appreciate it. So first up, we have Ken Powelson. Ken, you should be live now.
Thank you very much, Congressman Garamendi. If and when we regain power, it's clear that restoring our democracy and our international alliances will depend on us ensuring that ensuring that this assault on our democracy never happens again. Letting bygones be bygones will not be an option. What will be your strategy towards restoring our democracy and our international alliances following this assault?
Well, thank you for the question. You hit exactly what's been on my mind for the last, I don't know, since Trump came into office. Uh, in Trump's first term, he made it very clear that he had no use for NATO. It was fortunate when Biden came in that he rebuilt that alliance with NATO. There are different ways he did it, working with the European Union and NATO, and he rebuilt it. Trump has come back, and once again, he's shredding the NATO alliance. We'll go into it in more detail, perhaps, with another question. But that's just one example of the alliances that we have depended upon for our national security and for our economic security. These alliances are both economic and strategic. So how do we deal with it? Well, we win the next election. Plain and simple, we have to take back the House of Representatives. We're not going to be able to drive policy given Trump and the possibility that the Senate will remain Republican. But we can stop many of the things that have been so destructive on the alliances and the other issues. You didn't bring up the issue of tariffs. I'm going to save that for somebody else's question, or I'll bring it up myself. But that's just one more example of what Trump did to shred and to destroy our alliances. Right now, Canada for more than 100 years has been our closest ally in every way, economically, as well as strategically. But right now, Canada is simply saying we can't trust the United States. And so they're setting about to develop other relationships that they could depend upon. That's only one of many, many examples. How do we deal with it? Well, first the elections, and then we simply have to rebuild. We have to rebuild by clear understanding, standing clearly with these clear alliances, ASEAN in the Pacific and NATO in the European arena, and value those alliances, and then also recognize them for their economic importance. Our economy is very, very much dependent on the economies of the world. We cannot go it alone economically or with our security. We have to be there with all of these alliances in place. So that's really where we are. Will we succeed in the upcoming election? I hope so. One of the things, and I'll come to this, I suspect, with the question on Iran, how we can push back now before the elections. We do have the National Defense Authorization Act coming before us, and I'll talk about that a little later. And we also have the infrastructure issues with the question of the surface transportation program. All of these are critical for our nation, and certainly the National Defense Authorization Act for our international relations. Thank you for your question. I'll touch on this probably several more times during the Q&A. Thank you for getting us started.
Thank you, Ken. All right, next up, we have Camille. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, Congressman Garamendi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing these town halls. First, we also appreciate having a direct conversation with you, especially during these somewhat scary and hard times for so many people. I know you might not be able to say this yet, and maybe you haven't come out publicly, but a bunch of our friends and us are having kind of a hard time trying to figure out the next governor of California, and we'd love to know who you want to work with. And if you can't answer that, I have one other question. So.
Well, stand by on that. I know all of the candidates, at least the leading candidates, very well. I don't know the mayor of San Jose, but among the leading candidates, they're all quality people. But in this coming week, I would be expecting to issue an endorsement. So stand by. They're all good, and I think one or the other might be better. So we'll see. Now, the second part of your question.
Second part of my question is, I'm concerned about all the things you mentioned for sure. And one thing you didn't mention is our crazy national debt. Trump and his team have said they're going to, reduce it. And obviously it's only again skyrocketed under their leadership like it did the last time they were in office. So my understanding, it's reached 100% of GDP, and a third of the interest on the debt is also going to the America's top 1% wealthiest people. So it's like this crazy circular vicious circle. And I'm just curious what the Democrats are planning on debt and if we are attacking that in any way.
Well, we certainly are. Let me just take one piece of this. This takes us back to the military, the Department of Defense. Trump has proposed, and the Department of Defense has proposed, a 50% increase in military spending this coming year, in the 27-28 year. It will go from just under $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. Oh my God. Are they serious? Yes, they are. I spent a good part of this weekend the detail proposal for expenditures from the Department of Defense. It is crazy. And you go, how in the world can you possibly propose a 50% increase, $500 billion increase for the military? First of all, there is no way they can spend that money wisely. I mean, they can throw the money over the ship side, which is probably the only way they could do it. I can go into it in great detail, but that is the starting point for the debate that's going to take place as we put together the National Defense Authorization Act. And I've made it very clear to my colleagues, Democrat and Republican, I am a strong no vote, period. No way am I going to vote for that kind of increase, and I will fight it every way possible. And I know this issue. I've been on this committee for 15 years, and I know the detail, and I know that the Republicans cannot respond in any rational way for this extraordinary increase. So that is an additional $500 billion increase in our debt because there's no income. The tax cut that you talked about is in place, and it's going to continue. And it does provide extraordinary tax cuts for the top 10%, with most of it going to the top 1% and to 50 of America's biggest corporations that do not pay taxes. The tax system is out of whack. It's got to change. And we've made proposals on the Democratic side to do this. We don't have the votes. We can make the proposals, we'll argue the case, and we will, and we have. But we don't have the votes to make the difference. Now, it's very, very close in Congress right now, with the Republicans having maybe 2 or 3 seats, depending upon absences and deaths, maybe 4 seats. But the reality is it's close. And I'm waiting for the Republicans who say that they are deficit hawks to really prove that they are. What they are simply following Trump. They fear Trump. They'll do whatever Trump wants, and they do it repeatedly. And this issue of expenditures is there. I want to make a couple of other points. To reduce the deficit, not to bridge the gap at all, but to reduce the deficits, the Republicans last year, in what they called the big, beautiful bill, we call it the big, ugly bill, took almost $1 trillion cut on medical services over a 10-year period. So that plays out somewhere $1 billion, $100 billion or more, 150 billion a year in specific cuts to medical care. Medicare specifically. The first was the issue in which we simply said we're not going to vote for those cuts, and that was the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And in California, in my district, about 200,000 people lost their subsidies and ultimately lost their health insurance. Across the nation, some 20 million Americans are now losing their health insurance that was subsidized in the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The second shoe is now dropping, and it is a heavyweight. the cuts to Medicaid are beginning. And after the election, they will be in full force. And the Medicaid programs is going to be decimated. They do it in many different ways, but the reality is men and women, seniors and others that are on Medicaid will not be able to have Medicaid coverage. So the nursing homes, the long-term care homes, and the rural hospitals and all of the clinics out there are going to suffer, and many of them are going to close. Those are where these cuts will take place. And the expenditures are going to be over on the military side. So it's ugly. It is very, very bad. What do? We fight fiercely, as we did with the Affordable Care Act program. We lost that fight. We'll continue to take up this issue for the Medicaid programs. And it goes across the board. They are proposing a 10% cut in every federal program. Healthcare is a little more than 10%, but for the education programs, for highways, for transportation, all of those programs are scheduled for a 10% cut. But if you're in the military, it's going to be absolutely obscene. So that's where we are. We're going to fight every way we can along the way. And now I'll probably talk about more of these details as we go on. But your question is absolutely in line. The end result, excuse me, not the end result, the result of 4 years of Trump will be a whopping increase in the national deficit, the national debt. And his favorite folks, military and others, will see a significant increase unless we are successful in bringing about a more rational expenditure program and a more rational tax program. Thank you for your question. You're right on with the issues you raised.
And thank you so much, Camille. On deck, we have right now Chris Milne. Chris, you should be able to unmute now. After Chris, we have Susan Sermeno. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Congressman, for taking the question. I saw that you had co-sponsored a bipartisan bill, the SHIPS Act, which I think is pretty great. Do you think it has a chance of passing? What are the benefits going to be for both the port cities of the Bay Area as well as the landlocked cities? And thirdly, please introduce yourself to Mayor Mahan of San Jose. He's awesome.
I will look forward to that. I do not know him, but I'll look forward to it. The question, the SHIPS Act, this actually started with a program that I put together at the Mare Island, at the school there at the in 2016. We held a summit, if you would, about the maritime industry in the Bay Area. And we had a series of issues. Now, I am on the Coast Guard Maritime Committee. We began working on these issues 10 years ago and kept pushing them forward. This last year, I teamed up with Trent Kelly, Republican from Mississippi, and Senator Young and Senator Kelly from Arizona. And we put together a comprehensive maritime legislation covering every issue that I and others have been working on. And I'll talk about it in just a moment. At the same time, Senator Young and my former colleague, who is now the ambassador at the UN, worked with the president. And the president put forth his maritime security program. It turns out that his maritime security program is almost exactly the same as our legislation. And so we've been working together with the administration. We have the support of the administration for the issues that are in the SHIPS Act. So we've taken this issue. The Senate has had a hearing on it. We did a hearing a week ago in the House of Representatives on this legislation. And we are now working Senate and House with my three colleagues on the best way to move this bill to the president's desk. We're pretty sure we can do it. We're very, very optimistic. So what is the SHIPS Act? It is everything that is needed to rebuild the American maritime industry First of all, it's about building ships. A piece of legislation that I co-authored with a senator who now is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, is one in which a percentage of the export of American oil and gas, natural gas, must be on American ships. It's in the bill. If we can keep that in the bill, we will build about 40 tankers and LNG ships in the next 5 to 7 years, really rebuilding the ability of our ports and to build ships. It also is to repair ships. There's a piece of this that has to do with training programs. Some of these training programs actually exist today in the 8th Congressional District, programs that are operating at Mare Island and in Richmond in the high schools, preparing kids for working on the maritime industry, repairing ships and possibly building ships. The third piece of this are the smaller ships that are now being built in the Bay Area. Some of these are autonomous vessels. Others are smaller vessels that align with what the Navy needs to do to have underwater autonomous vessels. They're being built. If this bill passes, there'll be money to upgrade the ports in the Bay Area so that they'll be able to repair ships, will be able to have the efficiency necessary. And that's all of the ports, Benicia, Mare Island, Richmond, Alameda, and over, not sure about San Francisco, but these ports will have money to upgrade their facilities. And so we're very, very excited about this. It is comprehensive, and it is a fundamental national security issue. Presently, at this time, if there is a war in the Pacific, the United States does not have the ships to replenish and to resupply. We simply cannot do it. Like, suppose we could hire Chinese ships, but I don't think that would work very well. So we're very, very excited about this. It is a very, very important opportunity for creating thousands, if not tens of thousands of jobs in the Bay Area as we rebuild the maritime industry in the San Francisco Bay Area. It is an incredible opportunity, maybe starting with the small ships. We're working hard to bring the U.S. Navy into the Mare Island and perhaps even into Richmond as it is repurposed and rebuilt so that those naval ships can be reconditioned and put back out to sea. Thank you for your question. I urge you to follow all of this online and go to our website. This is day by day. And so we hope over the next month to 2 months that we'll have a clear path to the president's desk for the SHIPS Act. Very, very exciting, very, very important, not just for the Bay Area, but for every maritime port in America.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Congressman Garamendi. Once again, you can follow Congressman on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Bluesky, and YouTube. Up next right now on deck, we have Susan. Susan, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, Congressman Garamendi. This is great. I'm really happy to get in this time. I'm very concerned about our voting process and how the Republican Party is manipulating and gerrymandering districts, and they want voter suppression. They're trying to suppress voters. I actually have done the polls, and I'm an extractor for Contra Costa County, and it upsets me a lot too. I do that because my Republican friends and family, they keep thinking there's so much voter fraud, and I say I'm in there doing this, and there isn't. So the other thing is how they want us to prove our citizenship. I'm a naturalized citizen. That concerns me, and it just seems like Trump has the courts in his pocket. You know, how are we going to deal with this? Thank you.
Well, we're going to create a blue wave. And we're simply going to have to overcome the redistricting that is taking place. And you're right, the court is clearly following Trump's lead and actually creating in many parts of America the reinstitution of the exclusion of minorities from voting. It's the reinstitution of Jim Crow. And the way in which these redistricting is occurring, particularly in the southern, well, specifically in the southern states, is that the African-American community is back to the Jim Crow days. Their access to vote is going to be significantly reduced. Their ability to elect from their own community, the minority, the African-American community, is going to be eliminated. And so that's what the Supreme Court has done. And together with the legislatures in those states, the Jim Crow is going to be back. What are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, we've got to create a blue wave. There's a possibility that for example, in Texas, as they created 5 Republican seats, eliminating 5 Democratic seats, they made those Republican seats and other Republican seats in the neighborhood less secure for Republicans. Those become seats that we might be able to take if we're able to create this blue wave. So I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. It's not a good situation. It is not helpful at all. But we must prevail. We don't have any choice. And we have the issues with us, some of which we've been talking about here. Now, I want to go specifically to the voting issues. We're going to have to be very, very aware, and we're going to have to be very strategic. We've got to, in many states, including California, we are now setting up legal systems, lawyers and law firms who will be watching carefully the polling and filing whatever objections are necessary and whatever cases are necessary to protect the vote. There is one major piece of legislation that Trump keeps pushing, and it's called the SAVE Act. SAVE Act. And what it does, it deals with part of what you talked about, the proof of citizenship. Under that piece of legislation will be very, very difficult for any woman that in her marriage changed her last name. She is going to have, and this is my wife, among other women are going to have a very, very difficult time gathering the necessary documents to prove that their birth certificate, which is going to be different from their marriage certificate, that they align. And they're going to have to go back. This is what the SAVE Act does to married women, many of whom did not keep their birth name. That's just one example. There are many, many other examples in which that piece of legislation, should it pass, will deny tens of thousands, if not millions of Americans the opportunity to vote because they will not have the time to prove who they are and they have a right to vote. And your situation is even more difficult because you're a naturalized citizen. It's bad. It is really, really bad. Right now, the House of Representatives passed this legislation with no Democrats voting for it, but they had enough. In the Senate, there are several Republicans that looked at this and said, this is not right. They probably are married to a woman whose name is the same as theirs, who left their birth name behind. And that spouse is saying, oh my God, I may not be able to vote. So right now the Senate is holding back, and hopefully they will push back. Trump is all in on this, and he is badgering, threatening, and sicking the MAGA folks onto those senators that are saying, no. We'll see. There are many, many other things that are in play with regard to the election beyond just the redistricting issue. The ballots in Georgia have been seized. Trump is trying to seize the 2020 ballots. For what purpose? To set the stage for seizing the ballots in 2024, 2026. So we'll see what happens here. It is a big fight. We're fighting it legislatively, fighting it in Congress, and we're also setting up these legal teams to make sure that as best we can, we protect the right to vote. It's scary, it is troublesome, and it is in play at the moment. So thank you for your work and for others. There you have it. Thank you. I'll take the next question.
All right. Thank you so much, Emil. Up right now, we should have Julie Klug. Julie, you should be able to unmute yourself. And then on deck, we have Lou.
Hello, and thank you for taking my question, Congressman.
Certainly.
I'm very concerned about ICE going around to other locations. I'm in California, of course, but I'm from Minnesota, and I have a lot of relatives there who were very upset about what was going on. And I'm very concerned if these people are doing things against the law. They're wearing masks, they have no identification. How does anybody even know that they're legitimate, or they're not even legitimate if they're legitimate? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
I
how
do.
are we going to stop all of this going on?
Well, the Democrats in the House of Representatives and the Senate have proposed reforms for ICE. And these are speaking directly to what you talked about. No masks, identification pads, proper training, and all of the things that are required for any police agency in California. Standard procedure, none of which ICE presently do. They presently have a very sloppy, very fast training program, and it would never pass muster in any state for any police agency. But ICE is there. So that reform is still in play. And we have held out, refusing to vote for the funding of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. The shutdown that just recently ended was very, very much about that issue, reforming ICE. Now, also, the budget for ICE needs to be reduced. ICE has a budget that has an appropriation and the money guaranteed for 4 years. And that was in the big, ugly bill. They forward funded ICE. And so right now, the only thing we can do with regard to the ICE budget and appropriation is to take back the House of Representatives and to use the appropriation process, which is found in the House of Representatives, and take back that money and put ICE on a year-to-year. Will we be successful at that? Well, we must try. Now, so it's both an appropriation issue, that is, they have the money already. They're forward funded, and they are running wild. There's some information that came out that they are even further reducing the training programs for the ICE agents. So that's where this fight is right now with regard to ICE. These reforms have my very strong support. I'm a co-author on all of the reforms, and I'll continue to fight for it. And as we look to the upcoming appropriation process, we will take every opportunity we have to put ICE onto an annual appropriation to eliminate the forward funding that they have. Now, Trump doesn't want that to happen, neither do the Republicans. Will we be successful? We don't know. We do know that there are some Republicans, maybe just a handful, that understand that ICE is a out of control national police force controlled by Trump. He can send those tens of thousands of agents anywhere he wants to. And he's done it. Los Angeles, Minneapolis, and into Washington, D.C. and other cities. So it's very, very concerning that he has a national police force that he can deploy at his will. Now, I want to take this to the next election. Will ICE be at the polling places across America? They should not. They must not, because there are men and women who are perfectly legitimate voters that are going, oh, I don't want to be there because of the ICE agents. This is something that many of us fear Trump intends to do, to dampen the vote, to cause people to say, well, I'm not going to stand in line. I'm not going to have to endure those ICE agents. So we're concerned about this. Now, we don't have much time now, and we're going to take every opportunity in a very, very close Congress to look for those opportunities. We're a handful of Republicans saying this is not right. And we're going to push forward legislation to prohibit ICE being anywhere near the polls. So we got a real challenge out ahead of us, and we're going to need your support. I'm not going to go into the politics more than what I've said, but this is the moment for Americans that are concerned to get involved. And some of you have already indicated your involvement, and thank you for doing so. I'll take the next question.
Thank you very much, Susan, for your question. Up right now should be Lou. Lou, you should be able to unmute. Lou, are you there? All right, we are going to go into the next person. So up right now, we have Craig Simmons. Craig, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I'm here. Hi, John. I just have one question, and I've sent you some material regarding the California High-Speed Rail Authority and the High-Speed Rail Project in California. And I'd just like to know if you support the current business plan of the High-Speed Rail Authority.
No, I do not. There's a part of that business plan that should go forward, and that is the completion of the Central Valley part of the high-speed rail. But I've been advocating for 20 years now that the high-speed rail system must begin in the urban areas, specifically San Diego into central Los Angeles, and then build out into the area north of Los Angeles. Similarly, start in the Bay Area, not in San Francisco, but start in the East Bay and go over or through the Altamont Pass, bringing into the Bay Area the commuters in the Sacramento, San Joaquin, and Modesto area. Now, this is how I would answer your question. The current business plan continues to focus on building out from the Central Valley. I think that is a serious mistake. It's possible to begin the line in Hayward with a branch going towards San Francisco, maybe even going all the way into San Francisco, but at least getting into Oakland and then being prepared to cross the bay, and the other line going south into San Jose, merging in the Hayward area, and then eastward through the Altamont Pass, picking up the North San Joaquin and Sacramento Valley. That way you get the ridership. And then you're bringing those people into the urban areas and providing the ridership. So that's where I am on it. We'll see what happens here. There's a lot of opposition, but I think that the proposal I've made is a way to increase the ridership and provide for immediate or more immediate services for Californians, both in northern as well as Southern California. Interesting question. Very, very important that we provide for this. Now, there's a way to get started on this, and that is the improvement of the current rail system from the Tracy, Stockton, Modesto area through the Altamont into the Bay Area and all the way into San Jose. That line can be improved. There's talk about a new tunnel, good, but build that tunnel for high speed, not for the current system, but for high speed. Someday it will happen. Similarly, in Southern California, you can begin with the current rail system, improve it, get people to use that so that the services are good. Okay, I'm going to let it go at that. There's much more to be said about it, but let's get to the next question. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, sir. On deck right now, we have Kelly Ryan. Kelly, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, my question was, do you think that Trump would reinstitute the draft to with the war going on? And thank you for having this Zoom webinar. I really appreciate it.
The answer is no to your question. The current all-volunteer military is sufficient for our current programs. Right now, all of the departments, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, are successfully filling the necessary positions that they have, which are going to grow, and it should. So we don't need the draft. And so the answer is no to your question. There is a need, and this is something that I'll be dealing with on the Armed Services Committee, and that is to make sure that the support systems for the military personnel in every department are good, that the housing is good, the barracks are good, the medical services are good, and that the Veterans Affairs provide the necessary support and continuing support for the veterans that are leaving the military. So those are very, very important. So in answer to your question, no, I don't think that the draft will be reinstituted. Now, so I'll let it go at that, and I'll take the next question.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, up next, we should have Mary. Mary, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, hi, Congressman Garamendi. I just had one question. I was wondering, all those federal were fired and laid off and early retirement and all that. What happened to all that money that was paying their salaries? Where did it go to?
Well, it turns out that it actually was a very small part of the total federal expenditures in every department. And in every department, after the Elon Musk and the Doge people eviscerated and caused those layoffs that you're referring to, they're rehiring. Oh my. You mean they were actually doing something that had to be done, like contracts, like audits, like making sure that the work was actually taking place? Yeah, those folks were doing good work. Now, there's always a need. There's always a need to go through every federal agency and improve the effectiveness and the efficiency. I actually did that. In the 1990s, during the Clinton administration, I was deputy secretary at the United States Department of Interior. And Al Gore had what he called reinventing government. He called me and the other deputies in and said, okay, you're going to reinvent your agency. And I expect to see significant reductions in the number of personnel. So I went back and I spent 18 months, not like Musk just ripping everything apart, but being thoughtful. What are we doing? What is necessary? What is not necessary? And we actually reduced by nearly, let's see, I'm trying to get these numbers right, almost 100,000 employees. We merged departments, we created efficiency, and everything ran better as a result of what we did. So it's necessary. It ought to occur periodically, but what Trump and Doge and Elon Musk did was simply to destroy. And Musk bragged about it. He bragged about destroying, not about improving the efficiency or the effectiveness. Now, what's happening is many of these civilian employees are being rehired in every agency. Now, hopefully those rehirings are being done thoughtfully. And what I just described that I did at the Department of Interior is replicated in the current situation. I must tell you, I am doubtful that it is. These agencies, departments, are not well run. And the people that are currently the secretaries, deputies, and the like don't seem to be interested in actual management and efficiency and effectiveness. So we've got some challenges out ahead. My task on both the Armed Services Committee as well as on the transportation infrastructure is to make sure that these very, very important agencies, Department of Transportation, TSA, all of these agencies are well run, that they have adequate staff, and that they are efficient and effective. And I will do that. As a senior member of both of those committees, I am in a position to say, wait a minute, are you actually improving the effectiveness and the efficiency as you rehire? Or do you have to rehire additional people so that contracts can be written and that the oversight is there? So we'll see how this goes. It's in play. This is part of what we have. I can go back to the $500 billion of new money for the Department of Defense. And I'm going, there is no way that they can spend that money wisely, efficiently, or effectively, in part because of the layoffs that took place and because there's just no way that that amount of money can be spent in any efficient and effective way. I know these agencies. I've been there. I know what it takes to make it work. You can't do it. You can't properly spend $500 billion in 1 or 2 years of new money. So guaranteed, I'll be doing the oversight. Take the next question. I hope one of you wants to talk about tariffs, and I hope one of you wants to talk about the cost of living, like gasoline. So let's go. Next question.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary. Up right now on deck, we have Stephen Weisberg, and then afterwards, Bob Trapp. You will be next in line. Stephen, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, so I'd love to talk about tariffs and gasoline, but I drive an electric car and I'm not fiddling to buy a lot of things these days. So right now where I'm at is I'm in that age where I'm going to be applying for Social Security. There are a lot of disruptions to that program. There is a lot of talk going on about changes to that program. One of them was like back in 2007 when they wanted to open it up to the stock market. Conveniently before everything went, bust. Is that talk happening again? What is going on with the program?
Social Security. Trump and the Republicans want to go back to what they tried to do 2007 and tried to do during Trump's first tenure, and that is to privatize Social Security. You hit it absolutely correct. Instead of the current system, where the Social Security Trust Fund is managed by the government, successfully managed by the government, they would turn it over to the stock market. And I'm going, no. I got a few other words, some 4-letter words that I might add to that, but the answer for me is no. No way, no how. Now, because of the annual increases of inflation benefits for those who are on Social Security and those who will be on Social Security in the future, it will be necessary to broaden the tax base for Social Security. Right now, for Medicare and Social Security, not everybody is paying. We have a reform that we have been pushing, I'm the co-author of it, to reform the way in which Social Security is funded. And it would guarantee that for the next 15 to 20 years, Social Security would be guaranteed. It'll be fully funded. and it would require that some Americans, in fact, many Americans, that do not pay the full freight for Social Security and Medicare would be required to do so. So that's a piece of legislation. It's there. It's on my website. You can look at it. Is it going to pass with Trump and the Republicans? No. But I will go back to the SHIPS Act. It took me 10 years to finally get some of the major elements in the SHIP Act. And the Social Security is going to take a new Congress, hopefully both Democrat in the Senate and the House, to reform the Social Security system, not by cutting benefits, but by improving the flow of funds into Social Security and Medicare. So good question. It's out there. And I know we got about 10 to 15 minutes left. Is that right, Cameron?
Yes, sir. We have around 8 minutes
Well,
left.
if the next question does not deal with the cost of living, I'm just going to segue. So let's see what the next question is.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. And up next, we have Bob Trapp. Bob, you should be able to unmute yourself. Can you hear me, Bob?
Maybe I scared Bob off.
Maybe we did. Maybe we did. Okay, up next, we have Eric Nelson. Eric, you should be able to unmute yourself.
How you gentlemen doing today?
Well, I am enjoying these questions, and thank you for participating.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And my question was already answered about the gerrymandering. So as people go along, they questions get answered, and they be like, okay, I can't answer because it's already been answered. But yeah, as far as let's go on for the gas prices. I'm a postal worker in Fairfield, and we're still driving the 1988 postal vehicles, and I mean, it takes almost $50 to fill up this LLV vehicle.
Yep.
And they tell us, hey, use the cheapest gas. And we was like, well, we do. And then they was like, wait a minute, this receipt says you spent 50 something dollars in this little small vehicle. And we're
Yep.
like, well, yeah. And
well,
it's like
thank you for bringing this up. You've raised actually two issues: the cost of gas and diesel, and also the postal system. Let me deal with the cost of gas and diesel first. Trump's war of choice in Iran is a horrible mistake for many, many reasons. It was known for at least 20, almost 30 years that if there was a significant conflict with Iran, that Iran would and could close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I challenged the Secretary of the Department of Defense, Hegseth, when he appeared before the Armed Services Committee 10 days ago, 1 week ago now. And I said, you should have known. You were clearly advised, and the president clearly advised, that there was a substantial risk by initiating a war of choice with Iran, that the global oil market would be disrupted. And the 20% of the world oil and natural gas that comes from the from the Gulf would be stopped. Why didn't you pay attention? Why did you not advise the president to not go to war? Well, he didn't like my question, and that didn't bother me that he didn't like it. But the fact of the matter is that war of choice has created a worldwide energy crisis. And Americans and, frankly, everybody around the world is paying for that war of choice. The decision by Trump and his advisors, Hegseth and others, Rubio and others, the vice president, to go to war was a terrible, terrible mistake. Negotiations had not failed. Negotiations about the uranium, enriched uranium, had not failed. They were underway. And if you listen carefully to what those two negotiators, the president's son-in-law and the other negotiator, they had not failed, but they had not yet succeeded. Keep in mind, when Trump was elected in 2016, the first thing he did in 2017 was to stop the JCPOA, which prohibited Iran from ever having enriched uranium. No sooner had Trump terminated that program, which was the United States, Russia, United Kingdom, France, and Germany, joint program by those countries to prohibit Iran from having enriched uranium. Iran immediately, on the termination of that program by Trump, began enrichment. There was nobody watching. So we need to be aware of what Trump did in 2017 and what he did and what he's doing now. The cost of living is more than just gasoline and diesel fuel. It's now working its way into our food supply. Farmers are having to face higher energy costs, fertilizer costs. Planting season is underway with all of these costs in effect. Thank you, Donald. Thank you. Look what you're doing to Americans. You know, you said you were going to reduce the cost of living. Really? You are just creating a crisis for every American family. And here it is. We see it first at the gas pump or the diesel pump. We're going to see it in the food supplies. You're going to see it at the store. It's going to cost more to deliver whatever there is to the store. And by the way, have we gone to tariffs and the disruption of the tariffs? Trump is not a dictator. He's the president of the United States. And fortunately, the Supreme Court, with maybe the only thing I agree with them on, is that they have said it is the Congress of the United States, Senate and House, that sets the tariffs. It is the taxing function of the Congress. And the taxing function begins in the House of Representatives. And the Supreme Court, I think in the last day or two, said that Trump's follow-on 10% tariff is not legal. So, but nonetheless, the effect of all that tariff war has not yet worked its way through the international economy. And the disruptions are real. The costs are real. The prices were increased. And I don't know many companies that are rapidly reducing their prices as their tariffs have been reduced. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. My experience with companies is they'll very quickly raise their prices to take account of the tariffs and very, very slow to reduce their prices once the tariffs are gone. So here we are. Thank you, Donald. This is what you're doing to America. Didn't have to happen. None of it had to happen. The war, the increased cost of fuel, and the tariffs, those were things that Donald J. Trump decided to do on his own because he thought he had the power to do so. And one more thing about the Iran war. The president of the United States has very limited power to wage war, only to protect America, not to wage a war of choice. That is the power of the Congress of the United States. And I'll be authoring, I have authored legislation. We'll be taking it up week after next. And this is the War Powers Resolution that says Trump's war of choice is over. and that he has 60 days to extract American military from that war. So we'll see what happens. That's the War Powers Resolution. 4 of us in the House of Representatives. 1 has already been on the floor. The Republicans turned it down. There are 3 more, and mine is the second in line. So we'll be seeing what happens with that War Powers Resolution. We'll see. I don't know if that was your question, but I wanted to get that on there and let all of you know where we are with this. So back to the questions.
All right. Well, before we get to the final question of the night, just wanted to say thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And if we did not address your question, please go to garamendi.house.gov/contact to submit it there for a response. You can also call any of our offices to record your comments with a member of our staff. Phone numbers can be found at garamendi.house.gov. And finally, to keep up to date with information from our office, please follow the Congressman on all his social media platforms. He is on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube, he's on Threads and Bluesky. And also be sure to sign up and follow the Congressman Garamendi's weekly email newsletter. We work very, very hard on this. Now, finally, for the final question, we have Michelle Ruiz. Michelle Ruiz, you'll be our final question of the night. You should be able to unmute, and the floor is yours.
Hi, Mr. Garamendi. My question is in regards to healthcare. I'm wondering what you can do to help support people in Solano County who are applying for Medi-Cal insurance or need to make changes to their Medi-Cal insurance because of household income. I've had to go through this struggle the past 3 months trying to deal with Medi-Cal, and I have a son with mental illness, and it has enormously restricted the care that he's been able to get because of the problems we've had.
Well, I'm going to take a deep breath. This is going to be an issue for all of America, and it's a big issue in the 8th Congressional District in Contra Costa Solano. I guess next year it'll also be all of Solano County, and then part of Yolo and Sacramento, and actually San Joaquin County with the new district. It is a very, very serious problem. I talked earlier about the Affordable Care Act. I don't know if you were getting insurance from the Affordable Care Act. If you were, you probably no longer are able to get it. The Medi-Cal program has tried to backstop. The state government has tried to provide some funding to replace the Affordable Care Act insurance. It will not cover everything. It'll cover just I think a small proportion of those who lost their insurance. Now, you also talked about a specific problem that you have. My district staff is incredible, and we have several hundred requests every month for assistance on every conceivable issue, and medical issues are the single biggest. As a result of the disruption in health insurance that the Republicans and Trump have laid on all of America, and laid a very, very heavy trip on people in my district who were significantly, proportionally more dependent on Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act insurance, and Medi-Cal. And so the disruption is very, very heavy. I would go to my website. There is on the website a specific link to how we can assist you in your specific problem. And that's also for anybody else that's on the phone or on the television right now. We do a lot of this. The staff that I have is terrific. It may take a little bit of time. Maybe there's a quick answer. Often there is not, because of the disruption in the previous healthcare insurance systems. So I won't go back and plow that field again. But for anybody that's listening, we're here to help. And so we really do probably several hundred of these every month. And in some cases, we're able to solve the problem. In other cases, we cannot because of the changing requirements that the Republicans have placed on these very, very essential programs. So with that, thank you all very much. Stay in touch. Much of this information is available on our websites, YouTube, and the rest. Cameron's going to review that all one more time. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to do this again. I like to do this. We'll probably do this every few weeks, maybe every other week. So thank you for joining us. Goodbye now.